where faith, culture, and politics collide. This is Give Me Liberty Media. This is the Tyler Morgan Show on Relentless Daring Media Network. Welcome back to Land of Bourbon and Bad Decisions. This is the Tyler Morgan Show, live on twitch.tv/Tyler Morgan Show, or check it out later at youtube.com/at the Tyler Morgan Show. I have the at or the there. I don't know. It's YouTube, and apparently there's already a YouTube channel that's Tyler Morgan Show. So, yeah. He beat me to it, so I have to have the. Weird, I know, but hey, before I get into all the wild and wacky news of the week and my astounding political commentary, if I do not say so myself, let me tell you about beard oil. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, beard oil. It's how I keep my goatee all nice and well-conditioned. That way it's not all brittle and gross and scratchy and my face underneath itches. And I use Blue Collar Beardsman. Blue Collar Beardsman is a local family-owned company that they make everything. They've done their own personal research and development. They don't buy a bulk order of scented oils that's already in the bottles and then just label it and ship it out. Like, everything is made here locally. It's bottled locally, labeled locally, and shipped out. Check out their amazing selection of beard oils, beard butters, and the new beard washes and conditioners they have. And they also have swag. You can get t-shirts, hats, for keeping your beard or long goatee such as mine all nice and neat. They have a selection of combs. They're nice carbon fiber combs. It won't just like snap the tines off if you're trying to detangle a unruly beard. Lots of great stuff. Check them out today, bluecollarbeardsman.com. All right, so will he or won't he? That is the question for whether it's more noble to run as the designated candidate for the Democrat Party or to step aside and let someone else make way. That is where Joe Biden is at today. There's lots of news rumbling about that. Well, Joe Biden's going to step down from out of the race at the this weekend. Well, Joe's not going to step down. Joe's just going to keep fighting. Well, believe me, I would love to see Joe Biden drop out of the race. However, one of my concerns about Joe Biden dropping out of the race, and my buddy Keith Malinak from The Blaze, I follow him on the Twitters at Keith Malinak, Malinak, for those of you illiterates who need help spelling it. He's been keeping an eye on the betting markets, predict it and stuff like that, because he's kind of in the boat where it's going to be a 2008 all over again, where you get a relative unknown. Barack Obama was a relative unknown. He'd served like one term in the Illinois Congress. Then he ran for Senate. And after 2 years in the Senate, oh my God, look at this man, this glorious man. He is very godlike. Look at the columns. It looks like a Roman temple to the gods that he speaks before to accept the nomination. Joe Biden, he was impressed because, he's clean, he's literate, he's a storybook man. So a relative unknown coming from out of the blue is a legit concern. Should it go to an open convention? There's a lot of people who are, well, if he's going to drop out of the race, well, he just needs to get Kamala Harris. Well, amongst the rumor mill, the people who are spreading all of the news or reports coming from sources close to the president. A lot of this is speculation, and I don't know how much of this is misinformation. That wonderful word that sprung up in 2020. Misinformation, misinformation, disinformation, or worse yet, malinformation. Yeah. The I said with all this news that's coming out as closest sources closest source. Okay, those of you who think I'm already been in the sauce, look at this. Look at this Glencairn. This Glencairn is dry. I've not yet begun to consume alcoholic beverages. Probably what my problem is. Anywho's, with a lot of these sources, these anonymous things where I can't tell you who I am, or you know who I am, but you can't use my name. But here's the dirt, here's the skinny, here's the tea being spilled. Um, you don't know if you can trust it or not. And we've seen this all the time. An anonymous source says, and then it turns out the anonymous source is 1,000,000% inaccurate. Uh, this person, I have sources close to somebody in connection with so and so that believes. You can't necessarily buy into everything that's said from an anonymous source, or you know a person that I know, a person that I will name says this anonymous person. You can't always believe that. um there are, I believe, legitimate reports that leadership high in the party, Chuck Schumer, maybe Barack Obama, I don't know if he has come out and straight up said, Joe, you need to do what's best for the party and step down. I don't know if that's the case, but Nancy Pelosi has publicly stated, Schumer has publicly stated it, and has apparently told Joe that, and everyone's seeing Biden kind of really starting to decline. If you go back and you watch this interview with Lester Holt, Lester Holt, he's not a right wing guy. He is fairly friendly to the left. And I think with a person that he likes and he supports, he's going to throw softball questions. He's not going to get too pointed with anything. And I think with someone that he didn't really particularly like and he had an animus towards, I think he's the guy who could really suppress, you know, allowing his emotions to cause a major, uh, you know, finger pointing and straight up kerfuffle with whomever he's interviewing. But when you start off the interview with, "Well, I'm glad you can make time for us. Talk about the issues and I'm not everything else, blah blah," angry face. It's like, Joe Biden, Mr. President, why are you yelling at me? I'm on your side. I'm not attacking you. All I said was, "Hey, I'm glad you made time for us to be here," and you're all being angry with me for no friggin' reason. But that being said, it's I think it's definitely time for Biden to step out of the race, but going back to this, unknown quantity. Yes, there are names being passed about. Pete Buttigieg has suddenly come out of nowhere, but Kamala Harris, Buttigieg's name starting to be bandied about. Wes Moore. Wes Moore is a person that, like I said, unknown quantity, and he's actually beginning to gain traction in these prediction markets, which that says something that there's enough people paying attention to Wes Moore that the markets are being like, hey, we'll give him a 3% chance of getting the nomination. No, I think it's 3% chance of winning the presidency with, and they're showing like 40 some percent for Donald Trump. And then the rest of that is just, you know, going through, you know, the potential replacements for Joe Biden and Joe Biden himself. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my feet. My arthritis is bothering me something fierce, and I'm hitting stuff under the desk, and so it might picking up on the mic. I don't know, but it be what it be. Um, but yeah, it's just. But for the sake of this election and this election only, I am willing to say that I am hashtag riding with Biden. Not necessarily because I support Joe Biden or I support the policies of Joe Biden and the policies that he has implemented through executive fiat over the last 4 years. Because, yeah, again, it's executive fiat, it's not legislation. And frankly, some of the legislation that he has signed that has gone through the Republican House and with a large enough minority in the Senate to really roadblock a lot of things through the Senate, things with bipartisan support that he has signed. These bills have been hot, smelly, nasty garbage, straight up. And but Joe Biden, he gave us student loan forgiveness, expenditures of federal funds because I can't believe I have to go through this again. These federally backed student loans is what's being forgiven. The only way these student loans can be forgiven is if the private institution that loaned the money is paid back. And so when the federal government says all these student loans are forgiven, really they're taking your tax dollars, the money that you pay in every week, month, 6 months, year, whatever the case may be, based on how your income sources are. This money that you pay in is then being reallocated to a private institution. Now, the last I checked, whenever a Republican or a Republican Congress and Republican Senate puts forth a bill or executive action that takes money from the taxpayers and reallocates it to a private industry of whatever form, defense, power and light, fuel, fuel manufacturing, looking at you, corn and ethanol industries, looking hard at you, looking right at you, George W. Bush. Can't fool me with that garbage. Anyways, whenever Republican does it, and you see the left wing, now they're just taking taxpayer dollars and putting them into rich people's pockets through subsidies and cash and tax credits and blah 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 blah. And then when they do it, and then Republicans do the same thing. Or you're just helping out your donors in the private finance industry who are making these loans to people who have no intention of paying them off. Well, I'm sorry, Jimmy, that you went to Harvard and spent 100 grand on your double major in underwater basket weaving and medieval lesbian musical theater studies. Whatever stupid woke degree is in. And then suddenly you cannot find a good paying job either as an underwater basket weaver or in the study of medieval lesbian musical theater. And now you have all this debt. I mean, my wife just looked up her student loans because my wife has 3 degrees. She has an associate, she has her bachelor's, and then she went back and got her master's in special education. And she had like 99K in student debt. And yeah, we understand we're going to be paying that off for a long time. We know this. We understand this. We understood what that meant when we signed those master promissory notes saying that we will pay back the money we borrow. Because what's this thing? It's called a contract. Yes, it's a contract. If you enter into a contract with no intention of paying something back, then it's a fraudulent contract. And I understand that the universities can't go and suck out the brains of these wonderful, wonderful human beings for, that they've committed theft of services. They fraudulently entered into a contract that they're not going to pay back. So we shall take their brains as collateral. Yes. Because honestly, there's not a whole lot of a market for slightly used brains. Of course, after 5 years at Harvard and stupid degrees that will not get you anywhere in life. I don't even think they're slightly used brains. I believe they're now damaged brains, and nobody wants damaged brains. So Joe Biden, he's done this multiple times. He's been told multiple times by federal courts and the Supreme Court, you cannot initiate an expenditure of funds through executive fiat, even if that money has already been allocated to the Department of Education, and you're just redesignating it. You're seeing red lights flashing. I'm messing with my mouse. I'm sorry. You cannot suddenly decide that, well, this money is it's already allocated to them, so we're going to spend it on this instead. Well, no, you see, they submit these things called budget proposals, which I don't even know why I'm concerned with the budget anymore. We haven't had one since 2009. Barack Obama, first year in office, last budget that we've had. That leads to continuing resolutions. Yes, the continuing resolution. We're going to continue to spend what we did on the last package. Excuse me, I would like to add more spending to the continuing resolution. Do you want to take anything out? No, I do not want to take anything out. I just want to add more to it. Okay, we're going to spend what we did last time plus this. It's ridiculous. And we wonder why our spending is out of control, why we are what 35 trillion in debt. We wonder why under the Trump administration in 4 years he added $8 trillion to our deficit. If anyone wanting to know, am I voting for Donald Trump? I don't know. I may very well end up voting for him. But it's not going to be because he was so fiscally freaking conservative as president, because he was far from it. Remember when the Democrat controlled House and the Democrat controlled Senate strong armed him into signing a continuing resolution because they held, was it military aid for Ukraine hostage? They held that hostage. They held something hostage. I don't remember what exactly it was. They were holding up like, if you don't sign this, then we're not going to pass this to give it to you, and then you'll just have to suck it, nerd. And then the government's going to shut down. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be all your fault, Republicans and Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm at a loss. So it's like I'm on so many different tangents, and my brain is not running straight. So you have to forgive me. And I'm also on the using this wonderful StreamYard, and I haven't made like a little ad break thing to go in between. That I can I'm take quick break, me right back, and run. I don't have any ads. I don't. The advertisers I have, they're not even paid. I talk about them because they're amazing, and you know, one is a family business. Well, they're both family businesses, and I want to, advocate for them. So I don't have like, paid ad space. I can go in the middle and go into an ad break and catch my breath. So I'm just gonna motor on through. But first, I wish I had a poll up here. I was like, hey y'all, what should I have? So you know what? I'm thinking to borrow from John Anderson. Don't ask me on a straight tequila night. Yeah, congratulations, you got me singing. And yes, it is a straight tequila night. But it's just been so freaking stupid, so amazingly bad that this is what we have to worry about with who's running. A Republican who, by all weights and measures, is not much of a conservative, but then again, neither are many of the Republicans. And then you have the brain dead guy who doesn't know if he's coming or going, and has given the middle finger to the Supreme Court more times than even Andrew Jackson. So, yeah, those are amazing choices. But I do believe that in the greater course of events, Donald Trump is far better for the country than Joe Biden. Because there was a lot of things that during the Trump administration that I didn't vote for him in 2016, because for many of the same reasons that JD Vance didn't vote for him in 2016. JD Vance, in private conversations that were made public years later, said many of the same things that I did when I'm sitting in Afghanistan with, young soldiers uh, under my under my charge as an NCO. Well, Sergeant Morgan, who are you voting for? I don't know. I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting Trump. I'm Trump. Yeah, Trump. Ah, cool. Come on, Sergeant. It's like, well, number one, as an NCO, I really shouldn't be discussing politics with my soldiers. Number two, if you really truly want my honest opinion, here is my honest opinion on what I think will come of a Donald Trump presidency should he win an election against Hillary Clinton. And I was worried that he would go full fascist. That's it. End of story. The main reason because he'd never really been a Republican. He had some great business sense about stuff, but at the end of the day, he didn't have a real record aside from his numerous business failures. But you know, uh, if you hold business failures against a man, then Harry Truman, he should have never been vice president. He should have never ascended to the presidency because he had a number of failed businesses, and unlike Donald Trump, um, even when his businesses were completely completely done and he had all of these bills that he owed still, I think it was for a haberdashery that he ran. He went back to work for somebody else, and he used his personal income to fully pay back his debts from his failed business. Whereas so many businesses today that they restructure and they don't they don't pay back the full amount. They restructure and they pay X amount to a master who goes through and works out settlements with the debt collectors, and okay, you're going to pay X amount for the next 5 years, and then you'll be done. So Donald Trump, he's a big fan of the old Chapter 11 business bankruptcy, and he used it to great appeal or to great effect. I'm starting to think this whole tequila might be working a little faster than I expected, but yeah, it's a lot of the same things that JD Vance had said. I agreed with unknowingly, and then Donald Trump happened. He was fairly of a libertarian sense on a lot of things. He really wanted to shrink government. I mean, the proposal to move the USDA from Washington D.C. to Kansas City, mwah, chef's kiss. That was great. It's still a big city, so the urbanite, sophisticated Washington D.C. crowd would, yeah, it's Kansas City, but you would still have a lot of the amenities you're used to, except you have far better barbecue than Washington D.C. And they're out of DC. They're away from the lobbyists who are going to have an influence on a lot of the leaders in the USDA. That was a brilliant proposal. It never went through. God, I wish it had, though. But at the end of the day, he did a lot of things that even before you figure in COVID and government enforced lockdowns and government and encouraged local lockdowns and mask mandates and jab mandates that came, after Operation Warp Speed and the whole disaster of the jabs, which, if you're new to the show, the first time listening or watching on YouTube, believe me, I got the jabs. I got the first two. Now, keep in mind, when I got the jabs, it was it April of 2020, early on in into COVID, that oh no, it was not. It was later in the fall. It was later in the fall because spring break happened. Kids went home for spring break, and yeah, everything for the rest of the year is online. So this was after in the fall after they came back. My wife got COVID from a coworker. She came home, and we kept the kids away from the wife. Wife did all of her or did all of her teaching with her students. Across the room from where I'm sitting right now at her desk. Doing all the online teaching. And I sat over here and I printed off the kids' schoolwork and this, that, and the other, and played around online. And, then she went back to work that fall. And she gets sick. She comes, as I said, she's home. I'm doing all the stuff for the kids. And at night, I'm sleeping right next to her in bed. She has COVID. She and and it wasn't like, oh my God, she's dying. She got up. She's pretty spunky, maybe running a bit of a fever, and she would go do all of her teaching. And then by like 1 in the afternoon, she was just done. Like all of her energy's gone, or she's just pouring sweat from fever, and she's just going to bed. And I slept in bed next to her. I never got COVID while she was sick. I got the jabs. First one at the end of September, the second one at the end of October. No, first one at the end of October, second one at the end of November. And then towards the end of January, I got sick with COVID for the first time. Now, this is not commentary on the effectiveness of the jab brought to you by Donald Trump. This is a commentary that by sheer happenstance, even with having the jab, I still came down with the infection that it was supposed to prevent. And I know it wasn't just me, blowing smoke, because for the first couple days before I actually got sick, like you could tell it at work that I just, you know, I'm outside. It's 20 degrees. I'm just pouring sweat. I'm pale. I'm hacking and coughing. At work, they're like, take a COVID test. I go out to my work area away from the other human beings and do the COVID test, and I came back negative. Came back negative. Then over the weekend, I take the test, and after I've already been symptomatic for a few days, I take the test over the weekend, and suddenly I've got the vid. Yes. And you know what I did when I got the vid? I went back to work. I didn't tell anyone at work. I did not pass along any disturbing information. I just I'm gonna do what I do. I had a mask, and while masks weren't mandated, a lot of people were wearing them when inside. So I threw my mask on, so I blended in with the rest of the weirdos. I went and I clocked in, and I walked back out to my work area that is devoid of human population, save for me. I took my mask off, and I was sick in the truck. And then, to be friendly to the night driver, I would, you know, Clorox wipe down the interior of the truck just to make sure he was safe and not leave any unpleasant surprises. Yes. I look back at that early 2021 quite not very fondly. But yeah, it with the exception of what happened from 2020 until the end of his presidency, Donald Trump had earned my vote. So everyone freaking out that JD Vance. Well, JD Vance, he doesn't like Donald Trump. Look what he said 8 years ago. 8 years ago, he hated Donald Trump. 8 years ago, I hated Donald Trump. And I voted for him. Hell, I might vote for him again. I'm still undecided. And it's not undecided. Well, I don't know who's going to have the better policies. And if I just get some good stump speeches that lay out policy and, you know, policy proposals and see what they are. No, I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm just like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I would be like the most unenthusiastic Trump voter in the history of unenthusiastic Trump voters. But yeah, it's just absolute crap show. And yeah, again, just for the time beings, riding with the Bidens. But I would be remiss. Here it is, a week later, at post assassination attempt of Donald Trump, and there's still a lot of information coming out about the shooter, and a lot of questions about the shooter. Well, how was he able to do this? How could he do that? Blah, blah, blah. He was a Republican, he registered Republican, he voted Democrat, or he donated Democrat. And so many questions, and I'm honestly kind of worried about the official government response once everything's all said and done. However, there was an update. Congressman Ronnie Jackson, the former White House physician for, what was it, like 4 administrations: Trump, Obama, Clinton, and Bush. Yeah, he started like towards the end of the Clinton administration, then through the Bush years, Obama and Donald Trump. He released a statement, and I know Democrats, well, he's a Trump sycophant. He's going to say whatever he wants. Yeah, maybe, but he's also a medical professional, which many of us are not. And he did say that, yes, Donald Trump was struck in the ear. And a lot of people, his ear's been blown off. Probably had the top of his ear amputated. Well, from what Ronnie Jackson has said, that his right ear did take a grazing wound about 2 centimeters long. So he has this long right here through the cartilaginous, or 2 centimeters wide, something 2 centimeters is in there somewhere. And it definitely grazed the ear. It split a lot of skin open, and due to the vascular nature of the thin skin over the cartilage, lots of capillaries. When there's a trauma, they bleed a lot. I know. I took a striker hatch up here on top of my dome, and I bled an ungodly amount. I mean, within just a few seconds of my hand being on top of my head after the hatch hit me, I took my hand down. My whole hand was covered in blood. Kind of like you saw with Donald Trump, where he reached up, he touches his ear, and his hand is covered in blood. Said headlocks of any kind bleed a lot. And the Democrats on X and the libs on X, oh, what's a bunch of baloney? Because, even Donald Trump had said that, he had, he learned a lot. He didn't know the ear would bleed like that. Well, most people who've never been whacked in the head to the point where it splits open and bleeds understands how much your head will bleed. I mean, I had a dog bite here between my fingers, and it bled far less than what needed 6 stitches on top of my head. I've done some pretty gnarly boo-boos growing up that did not bleed as much as the top of my head. So, yeah, the particularly vascular nature of the ears, the scalp, the face, they bleed a lot with a relatively minor, relatively minor amount of damage. But Ronnie Jackson did say that everything's starting to what he said, granulate, I think is what he said. Maybe I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but everything is starting to really heal over well. And due to the vascular nature of the location of the injury, it's still prone to just starting to bleed. So that's the reason why Donald Trump, you know, even 4 or 5 days after getting his ear shot, was still wearing the bandage because it doesn't take much for those surface injuries like that to just start bleeding. You reach up and oh man, the healing is starting. It itches and it's just pouring blood all down my face. This happens. Anyone who's had any sort of head injury knows this. So dumb. But and the worst part about all of it is the conspiracy theories. Did you know about the second shooter on the water tower, man? No. As far as I know, there is no evidence other than sheer speculation that there was a shooter on the water tower. Well, there's 2 more shooters somewhere else. You can tell the evidence right here, here, here. It's like I'm pretty sure you're misinterpreting. Well, look at the path of the bullet. It's like, okay, the only way that that bullet path is happening from that angle from the shooters behind Donald Trump is if you're mirroring the video and you're making it run backwards because this is the same set of bleachers where the where you have 2 people get injured on the right side of that stage setup. And there's some wider angles that, oh, you had to be a second shooter. It's like, no, it's like the same time you're hearing the same first volley of shots, the one that struck Donald Trump, a second round that, you know, somehow did not hit anyone, and a third round that struck the first bystander victim. Well, there's no way the bullet could have hit them at that angle, man. It's like, well, yeah, I'm looking at the video and it quite clearly could. Then the second volley of rounds. This is the one that hit a second bystander on that right side. Well, you only take damage from that direction if it was a shooter was from behind or from the other side. Well, no, if you see the zoomed in video, you see that he has turned and would have been facing kind of out from Donald Trump and then starting to turn back when you see him get hit and go down. It makes sense when you look at the video. And then also in that volley of rounds, Corey, was it Campatori? I'm sorry, I'm horrible with his name. I'm not trying to disrespect him in any way, shape, or form. Because his death is an absolute tragedy where he's trying to cover his wife and daughter, and he was struck in the head and he died. there's no evidence aside from internet speculation and um, clickbaiting that there's additional shooters. Sorry, I don't believe it. And unless a reputable third party who gets access to unclassified documents where the only thing that's blotted out are names of bystanders and witnesses who provided, you know, this is what I saw, signed, John Doe. If John Doe is blacked out, okay, I can live with that. But just if the government comes out and says, this is what happened, like it or else, then I'm going to be skeptical of what the full story is. But like I said, if an independent third party, if a John Solomon, if a uh, name a fairly down the middle reporter, it can be a liberal reporter who will report the most factually accurate stuff. Michael Schellenberger. If Michael Schellenberger were to do an independent review of the evidence and say, okay, there was a second shooter on the water tower. Okay, I would believe that. I'm willing to believe that, especially if he can point to the evidence and make it public. That way, it's not just him. Anonymous sources say. I hate the anonymous sources crap. But at the end of the day, we need to worry less about the shooters or the shooter and any possible second, third, fourth, 97th shooter that was involved in the Trump assassination attempt. We have to worry about what the hell was going on with Secret Service, the county sheriffs, state police, Butler, Butler Township Police, everyone. That's who we need to worry about. And I've got an article here. It's from Joseph Hanneman and Steve Baker with The Blaze. If you haven't followed Steve Baker's writings with The Blaze, especially in light of everything that's been going on with him and January 6th, it's been amazing. He has dug up some good stuff and made it very, very public and not gone out of his way to hide anything. So, headline: Secret Service failures during assassination attempt similar to those in hidden Jan 6 report, sources say. Now, I understand, like I said, about, well, sources say. Steve Baker's had some pretty damn good sources over the past couple years. So, if he's vetted his source and he will not throw that source under the bus because it's everything that source says is right on the money, then again, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Sniper team deconfliction, which for the non-military types, deconfliction is when you work out, um, having people on the right frequencies, knowing where team 1, 2, and 3 are going to be, what their points of aim are, what their main focus is. That is deconfliction. Sniper team deconfliction and failed coordination among Secret Service and local officers allowed the would-be assassin to take the first shot, experts told Blaze News. Communication failures by the U.S. Secret Service on January 6, 2021, that are described in a still secret IG report could relate directly to mistakes made on July 13th, leading up to the attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump. Congressional sources told Blaze News. The Jan 6 report from Department of Homeland Security IG Joseph V. Kufari was submitted for review in April, but is being held up in the office of DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. A senior congressional aide told Blaze News on the condition of anonymity. So again, Steve Baker knows who this is. They are on a first name basis, but this congressional aide has said, hey, here's the skinny, here's the proof of what I'm telling you, but you cannot use my name. And Steve Baker's honoring that. They don't want it out. They don't want it publicized. They don't like the conclusions. And that was before this happened, the source said. Before being sent to Mayorkas, the January 6th Office of the Inspector General report was reviewed by Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, the source said. The OIG's January 6th investigation has been ongoing for more than 3 years because, they still have to find all the wine-sipping grandmas who have not been arrested yet. That report that we've been waiting on from the IG has a set of recommendations in there. It's about Secret Service failures on January 6th. One of the recommendations directly related to what happened on Saturday. The source had not read a copy of the OIG report, but had its contents described by officials familiar with its development. The connection between the report and communications failures on July 13th is one of the possible links because police on the ground could not directly tell the snipers, we have witnesses seeing a guy over here on the roof. They couldn't just get on the radio and tell us, hey, team one, look for me. Okay, look up and to my left. Look up and to my left on the roof. All right, you got eyes on? Good. They couldn't do that. Cop on the ground had to radio a supervisor. And the supervisor, he probably did not have radio communication, so he had to call the liaison between the police and Secret Service and say, hey, officer so-and-so over by this building has seen something. We need to relay it to the Secret Service. Then the liaison gets in, he does his liaising with the liaiser from Secret Service, who then tells a Secret Service supervisor, some guy, think they see some guy on the roof over there. Said probably nothing. Just let it go. So yeah, there's a lot that happens that's like, what? Why aren't these guys on the same radio network? The same freak running FREQ, by the way. The same freak. That way they can just, hey, call sign for snipers. This is blank. I'm at this location. There's a shooter on the roof. There's a possible shooter on the roof. Get eyes on. Because that would make sense. Total sense. And you just can't have total sense. I believe the recommendation that ties January 6th to July 13th is the U.S. Secret Service inexplicably disjointed and inefficient communication structure with other agencies. That is the source told Blaze News on the condition of anonymity. Blaze News contacted Homeland Security OIG and Secretary Mayorkas' office for comment, but did not receive a response by time of publication. Kafari's office has opened 3 investigations on the attempted assassination, including one on counter sniper team preparedness and 2 others on the process for securing the Trump site and determining how well the agency's work, quote, ensures the safety and security of designated protectee, end quote. The OIG website said. Just after 6, this goes into details. Key questions will still be answered by the OIG and FBI and congressional committees tasked with investigating the attempted assassination, including why Crooks was not stopped as he drew attention near the event for more than 3 hours. Sit back and hear the tale of a fateful trip. It started on this stupid building. Something, something, something. I was going to get to a 3 hour tour eventually. Then my brain just goes, no, 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 we're not going to do that today. But yeah, just a whole lot of questions. And this, I want to put the link to this Blaze article in the show notes so you can read it yourself. But it is super in depth. And again, while I don't trust a lot of anonymous sources, like I said, with Steve Baker, these are people that he's on a first name basis with, and he has the utmost respect for their positions. And he's not about to burn a source by naming them, by hinting at anything more than they are a congressional aide, a source within DHS, you know, however his connections are, he's not going to burn them. So he's one of those journalists who, by all rights, if he is using an anonymous source, it is a well placed anonymous source. So there's still so much go on with finding out what happened with this July 13th shooting. So again, just if you're a praying person, keep the country in your prayers. Yeah, it's scary times when you have, these sorts of things go on. Uh, uh, a Republican guy was arrested in Florida after making Joe Biden threats, and that would probably end up going away. I remember, one of the Krasenstein boys on Twitter. You don't see conservatives talking about this, blah blah, this being suppressed. Well, you had celebrities asking questions about Donald Trump. What did Johnny Depp say? When was the last time an actor assassinated a president in my fake British accent? I'm so suave and debonair. I'm Johnny Depp. Yeah. The lack of self-awareness from some of the people who are being outraged right now is just, it's just ridiculous. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. The episode turned kind of a downer at the end, but I apologize. I can't always help what is in the news, and I could just do all happy good news stories, but you know what? It's not it's not real to ignore what's going on around us. So I will continue to do what I do, comment on the news, and if it's something I can end on a high note with, I will end on a high note with it. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. You get to deal with how I feel like analyzing the current state of things. I'm sorry if it hurts you. I really am. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new to the YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and yeah, smash that like button. Smash, smash, smash. I hate that. I hate that stuff with YouTube. Smash the like button. No, dude, don't yell at me. I'm not going to smash it. I'll hurt my computer. Stop. If you're listening to this on the whatever your podcast platform is, and you're not able to see the visual gags because you're not tuning into the live stream, just try tuning into the live stream. It's fun. You can sit and watch me sip tequila or bourbon or whiskey, whatever I happen to be working my way through that evening. And you can see See how I reposition myself around the microphone like 100 times because apparently I have ADHD and I can't sit still. Weird. Someone with a podcast who does weird voices on occasion might have ADHD. Huh. Sure, it's just a coincidence. But if you're listening to this on podcast and you are new, please, I ask the same four things every week. Number one, please subscribe or follow if you're on Apple Podcasts. Um, follow it, rate it. Looking for 5 stars. I'll accept 4, 3 and below. Follow me on X at fake Tyler Morgan, and you can DM me there, and you can tell me why you felt you need to give me 3 stars or less. And if you're nice about it, I'll be very happy with you. I will accept well-meaning constructive criticism from a listener who says, "Hey, I think you need to fix X, Y, and Z." That's awesome. It's great. I think you should focus more on doing it a certain way. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. You just talk about yourself too much. You won't be Alex Jones. Guess what? I'm going to make fun of you if you're that guy. Same thing in the reviews. Once you have rated it, step number 3 is to write a review. Say something nice about the show. Inflate it a little bit if you want. Don't get carried away with it. Don't be the private who stubbed his toe in basic training, who suddenly becomes Ranger qualified and blew his leg off in Afghanistan, despite clearly having both legs. Don't be that guy. Don't over embellish. Just kind of inflate it a little. Once you have subscribed, rated, and reviewed, please share this episode or send the link for the show in general to a friend, someone who you think will enjoy the show and may end up subscribing. I like the idea of getting more subscribers, just so you know. And send someone who you think will enjoy it. Send it to someone who you think they'll go, "Oh my God, this guy is freaking nuts. He's a freaking conservative. Oh, he's awful. Why? Why would you send me this?" If you want to send me to that person, please let me be the reason they have a meltdown. I'm begging you. I want to cause a liberal nut job to meltdown. Send the show to your liberal friend who you want to have a meltdown. I will gladly facilitate that. Anywho's, once you have done all those things, I will thank you greatly. And there may be a bribe sent in the mail. I don't know. I think I'm all out of bribery stuff. I had some dental picks. These the green plastic dental picks. Yeah, once you've done all those 4 things, I will send you a dental pick as bribery. I mean, as a reward for helping the show grow. Thank you so very much for listening. And as always, stay relentless. The Tyler Morgan Show is a Relentless Daring media production. The Tyler Morgan Show is supported by its listeners. To support the show, go to ko-fi.com/Tyler Morgan Show to donate there, or relentlessdaring.com and hit the donate button at the top of the page to set up your donation. All music used in the Tyler Morgan Show is used with permission from purpleplanet.com, link in the show notes. 2 Timothy 1:7.